to Spring Masonic Lodge number 1174. This is our 2020-2021 installation of officers. If you will please stand for the invocation.
Brothers and guests, please bow your heads. Supreme Grand Master, we humbly thank you for the many blessings in our lives, past and present, that we too often take for granted. On this auspicious occasion, the installation of officers of Spring Masonic Lodge number 1174, we ask that you lay upon the trusted board of their minds and hearts steadfastness and wisdom to best handle the challenges of their officers for this year by your design, that peace and harmony reign and the bonds of our brotherhood grow only stronger. Finally, Lord, during this time of strife and confusion in our world over medical and social issues, please keep watch over us all, encouraging and empowering each of us to be your beacon, your disciples, reminding each other that anger, frustration, and violence is path to destruction, and that only humility, love, and you, Father, are the solution. So let it be.
Please remain standing for a pledge to the U.S. and Texas flags. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor
the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated. Welcome, everybody. I do appreciate everybody that's come out tonight to celebrate the installation of officers for Spring Lodge. I know during this pandemic time it's tough to join any type of crowd whatsoever, but I do thank you for coming out. Each year, every Masonic Lodge in the state of Texas has elections for officers. It takes 13 officers to run any lodge. Our Masonic year begins and ends in the month of June, and new officers are elected at that time. That's why you don't see a worshipful master staying in these 2 years in a row, including the other officers of the same. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a huge impact on our fraternity and Spring Lodge this past year. We were not allowed to meet since the 1st of March, which typically we meet twice a week. That impacted our fundraisers, our Masonic, and community events that we had and all lodge functions. But let me tell you, this did not stop my officers from running the lodge. They kept the lines of communication open. Things were dealt with, bills were paid. We met on Zoom several times a week. We even had education nights on Wednesday. And I want to thank them for the time and effort that they took to keep everyone informed. Brother Charles Lowry was the big instigator of that. Brother Mike Perez. I know you did the newsletter every week, keep everybody informed. The officers reported to Brother Charles things that were going on, the things that had happened around the lodge, decisions that we made. So I do appreciate that, brother. Certainly do. I'm very, extremely proud of my officers for this year, and I want to thank them again. It is with a sad heart that I leave the East, but I have full confidence in our new worshipful master, Brother Barry LaChapelle, our senior warden, junior warden, and all the other officers. I've seen what you have done this past year, and I know that you can excel in eternity. It has been a great honor to be worshipful master of Spring Lodge and this fraternity for 2019-2020. I wish the new officers all the luck in their new duties. I plan to remain active in Spring Lodge, so if you need my help, you know where to find me. Of course, my role will change, but my loyalty to the fraternity will not. I will be here. 46 years ago, I was raised with the prime degree of a Master Mason. At that time, I did not realize how much it would change my life for the better. I have created lifelong friends and considered each one of you a part of my family. My failures and successes have helped me to gain a little wisdom that I am willing to share with anyone needs. Again, thank you for letting me serve you and this fraternity in Spring Lodge. I am proud of all the officers and what they stand for. Spring Lodge is the greatest only because of you. Your contributions, your support, your wisdom, your time and service make Spring Lodge what it is today. And your involvement is critical to the success of the fraternity. I wish everyone the best of luck. I'm here if you need me, and God bless. At this time, I'm going to introduce the installing officers. First of all, Brother T.J. Darth, past master at Spring Lodge, is the installing officer. And the installing marshal is Brother Gordon Marney, past master at Spring Lodge. The installing chaplain is John Warlow, past master at Spring Lodge. And at this time, Brother Darth, I'm going to turn it over to you.
TK, can you do a mic check?
Check.
Installing marshal, you will call the roll of officers to be installed. Officers to be installed, please retire from the line. be seated. We have assembled here today in the character of Masons to install the officers elected and appointed of Spring Lodge number 1174. As you're aware, in light of the current pandemic, we've had to adapt our ceremonies to ensure the health and well-being of all persons present, and in order to stay compliant with the directives of Grand Master Paul Underwood. As such, and considering our audience has been augmented, I would like to draw your attention to a monitorial section of the Fellowcraft lecture, as taken from Lightfoot's Monitor of the Lodge. Right Worshipful Jewel P. Lightfoot was Grand Master of Masons in Texas in 1915. These words exist now as part of Lightfoot's commentary and is colloquially referred to as the Dewdrop Lecture. If we consider the symmetry and order which govern all the works of creation, we must admit that geometry pervades the universe. If, by the aid of the telescope, we bring the planets within the range of our observation, and by the microscope, view particles too minute for the eye unaided to behold, we find them all pursuing the several objects of our creation in accordance with the fixed plan of the Almighty. By geometry, our Creator rounds the dewdrop, points the pyramidal icicle which hangs from thatch-bound roof, bends into a graceful curve the foaming cataract, paints his bow of beauty upon the canvas of a summer shower, assimilates the sugar to the diamond, and in the fissures of earth-bound rocks forms gorgeous caverns, thick set with starry gems. By it he taught the bee to store its honey in prismatic cells, the wild goose to range her flight, and the noble eagle to wheel and dart upon its prey, and the wakesome lark, God's earliest worshipper, to hymn its morning song in spiral flight. A survey of nature and the observation of the beautiful proportions first determined man to imitate the divine plan and study symmetry and order. This gave rise to societies and birth to every useful art. The architect began to design, and the plans which he laid down, being improved by experience and time, have produced works which are the admiration of every age. The lapse of time, the ruthless hand of ignorance, and the devastations of war have laid waste and destroyed many valuable monuments of antiquity, on which the utmost exertions of human genius have been employed. Even the Temple of Solomon, so spacious and magnificent, and constructed by so many celebrated artists, escaped not the unsparing ravages of barbarous war. Freemasonry, notwithstanding, has still survived. The attentive ear receives the sound from the instructed tongue, and the sacred mysteries are safely lodged in the repository of faithful breath. For all the strife we are currently experiencing, Freemasonry will continue, so long as the membership remains passionate, and leaders, like the gentleman being installed here today, refer to the past, except that some things must change in the present, and in the future pass on our drive and dedication to our fraternity for generations to come. Some of you may be in a Masonic Lodge for the first time, so perhaps a few remarks about Freemasonry would be appropriate. Everything in the room outside the ordinary furniture has significance to Freemasons. There are three things which I want you to particularly notice. The first is the altar and the open book upon it. There is an altar in every Masonic Lodge room, and when the lodge is open and working, the book of our faith is open upon it, and as a constant reminder of the presence of the supreme architect of the universe in our meetings. It should tell you of our belief that everything we do here is acceptable in his sight. The second is that every Mason present should be wearing a white apron. This comes from the wearing of a leather apron by our ancient brethren, who were in actual fact builders or stonemasons. To modern Masons, the white apron is a symbol of innocence and the badge of the Mason. The third is the hat or covering worn by the presiding officer. This is an old custom, and there are several reasons given. One is from the custom of King Solomon, one of our three ancient legendary Grand Masters, to wear his crown when presiding over the craft. Another interpretation is that it is not so much that the master has his hat on, but that every other Mason has his hat off, as a mark of respect not necessarily for the man, but for the office. The master of a symbolic lodge is exactly that. He is the master. No other organization gives to a presiding officer the almost absolute power which is vested in the master of a Masonic lodge. Many misconceptions have grown up around Freemasonry. One of these is that we are a secret order. This is simply not true. A secret order is one whose members hide their faces and the fact of their membership. This charge cannot be made against a fraternity whose members proudly and openly wear an emblem of our order. Many lodges distribute rosters of their membership, and the Grand Lodge of Texas regularly publishes its roster, which gives the names of Masons in Texas. It is obvious that we are not a secret order. Rather, we are an organization with secrets. And these are respecting our ritual and modes of recognition. These are not made public simply because they concern us alone. Another misconception is that Freemasonry is a religion. It would be difficult to make an error more wrong than this. It is religious in nature and requires every member to believe in a supreme being. Freemasonry supports religious freedom and encourages every Mason to be active in his place of worship. Many religious leaders are Masons, and this fact alone would go far toward clearing up this particular misconception. Freemasonry is the largest fraternal organization in the world. It openly exists in all 3 countries in the world. Freemasonry is the oldest fraternity that the world has ever known. So old, legend has it, that it existed before the dawn of written history. Freemasons were choosing of their own free will and accord their leaders long before any country ever dreamed of allowing its subjects a voice in its government. So these good men seated before you have been freely chosen by their brethren to fill the posts of leadership in our fraternity, and it now becomes my duty and happy privilege to install them in their positions of trust and responsibility. Brother Marshall, you will present the officers to be installed.
Mr. Master, I present the officers elected and appointed for installation at Spring Lodge number 174. I believe each to be qualified to discharge the duties of his office. Each has signified his willingness to accept the same, and therefore ask the officers to be installed in their respective offices.
Brother Marshall, you will present the worshipful master-elect for installation. Worshipful sir and brother, I take pleasure in installing you into this honorable office with the usual ceremony. But previously to your being invested with the insignia of your office, it is necessary that you should signify your assent to those ancient charges and regulations which point out the duty of the master of the lodge. Number 1, you agree to be a good man and true, and strictly to obey the moral law. Number 2, you agree to be a peaceable citizen, and cheerfully to conform to the laws of the country in which you reside. Number 3, you promise not to be concerned in plots and conspiracies against government, but patiently submit to the decisions of the Supreme Legislature. Number 4, you agree to pay a proper respect to the civil magistrate, to work diligently, live credibly, and act honorably by all men. You agree to hold veneration to the original rulers and patrons of the order of Masonry and their regular successors, supreme and subordinate, according to their station, and to submit to the awards and resolutions of your brethren when convened in every case consistent with the constitution of the order. Number 6, you agree to avoid private piques and quarrels and to guard against intemperance and excess. Number 7, you agree to be cautious in carriage and behavior, courteous to your brethren, and faithful to your life. Number 8, you promise to respect genuine brethren and to discountenance impostors and all dissenters from the original plan of Masonry. Number 9, you agree to promote the general good of the society, to cultivate the social virtues, and to propagate the knowledge of the art. Number 10, you promise to pay homage to the Grand Master for the time being, and to his officers when they are duly installed, and strictly to conform to every edict of the Grand Lodge or General Assembly of Masons that is not subversive to the principles and groundwork of freemasonry. Number 11, you admit that it is not in the power of any man or body of men to make innovation in the body of Masonry. Number 12, you promise a regular attendance on the committees and communications of the Grand Lodge, on receiving proper notice, and to pay attention to all the duties of Masonry on convenient occasions. Number 13, you admit that no new lodge shall be formed without permission of the Grand Lodge, and that no countenance be given to any irregular lodge, or to any person clandestinely initiated therein, being contrary to the ancient charges of the order. Number 14. You admit that no person can be regularly made a Mason in or admitted a member of any regular lodge without previous notice and due inquiry into his character. And number 15. You agree that no visitors shall be received into your lodge without due examination and producing proper vouchers of their having been initiated into your regular lodge. These are the regulations of free and accepted Masons. Do you submit to these charges and promise to support these regulations as masters have done in all ages before you?
I do.
Brother LaChapelle, in consequence of your cheerful conformity to the charges and regulations of the order, you are now to be installed master of this lodge, in full confidence of your care, skill, and capacity to govern the same. Brother LaChapelle has been invested with the insignia of his office, which is the square. The various implements of the profession are emblematical of our conduct in life, and upon this occasion are carefully enumerated. The holy writing, that great light in masonry, will guide you to all truth. It will direct your path to the temple of happiness, and point out to you the whole duty of man. The square teaches us to regulate our actions by rule and line, and to harmonize our conduct by the principles of morality and virtue. The compasses teach us to limit our desire in every station, that, rising from eminence by merit, we may live respected and die regretted. The rule directs that we shall punctually observe our duty, press forward in the path of virtue, and neither inclining to the right nor to the left, in all our actions have eternity in view. The line teaches us the criterion of moral rectitude, to avoid dissimulation in conversation and action, and to direct our steps to the path which leads to immortality. The Book of Constitution. You are to search at all times, cause it to be read in your life, that none may pretend to ignorance of excellent precepts of the correct. You now receive in charge the charter, by the authority of which this lodge is held. You are to carefully preserve and duly transmit it to your successor. Lastly, you receive in charge the bylaws of your lodge, which you are to see carefully and punctually execute. Brother Marshal, you will seek the worshipful master and present the senior warden-elect for installation. The senior warden-elect has been invested with the emblem of his office, which is the level. Brother Harold, the level demonstrates that we are descended from the same stock, partake in the same nature, and share the same hope. And though distinctions among men are necessary to preserve subordination, yet no eminence of station should make us forget that we are brethren. For he who is placed on the lowest spoke of fortune's wheel may be entitled to our regard. Because time will come, and the wisest know not how soon, when all distinction, but that of goodness, shall cease, and death, the grand leveler of human greatness, reduces us to the same state. Your regular attendance on our stated meetings is essentially necessary. In the absence of the master, you are to govern this lodge, and in his presence you are to assist in the governance of it. I firmly rely on your knowledge of masonry and attachment to the lodge for the faithful discharge of the duties of this important trust. Look well to the rest. Brother Marshal, you will seek the senior warden and present the junior warden-elect for installation. The junior warden-elect has been invested with the implement of his office, which is the plumb. Brother Perez, the plumb admonishes us to walk uprightly in our several stations, to hold the scale of justice keeping equal poise to observe the just medium between intemperance and pleasure, and to make our passions and prejudices coincide with their line of duty. To you is committed the superintendence of the craft during the hours of refreshment. It is therefore indispensably necessary that you should not only be temperate and discreet in the indulgence of your inclinations, but carefully observe that none of the craft suffer to convert the means of refreshment into intemperance and excess. For the marshal, you will seek the junior warden and present the senior and junior deacon for installation. Chaplain, I apologize. Sorry, chaplain. The chaplain has been invested with the insignia of his office, which is the open Holy Bible. Well, shown, it is your duty to perform the solemn services which we should constantly render to our Creator, and which, when offered by one of whose example is to point to heaven and lead the way, may, by refining our souls, strengthening our virtues, and purifying our minds, prepare us for admission into the society of those above, where happiness will be as endless as it is perfect. Brother Marshal, you will seek the chaplain and present the senior and junior deacons for installation. The senior deacon has been invested with the emblem of his office, which is the square compasses. Brother Carter, it is your province to attend the masters and the wardens, and to act as their proxies in active duties of the lodge, such as the reception of candidates into the different degrees of masonry, the introduction and accommodation of visitors, and the immediate practice of our rites. The square and compasses, as badges of your office, I entrust to your care, not doubting your vigilance and attendance. Brother Marshal, you will seek the deacons and present the senior and junior stewards for installation. The stewards have been invested with the insignia of their offices, which are the cornucopia, or horn of plenty. Brothers Bainbridge and Mosqueda, it is your duty to assist the deacons and other officers in performing their respective duties, and to see that the tables are properly furnished at refreshment, and the brethren are suitably provided for. Your regular and early attendance will afford the best proof of your zeal and attachment to the lodge. Brother Marshal, you will seek the stewards and present the Master of Ceremonies and Marshal for installation. The Master of Ceremonies and the Marshal have been invested with the insignia of their offices, which are the crossed swords and crossed batons, respectively. Brother McKnight and Duchette, it is your duty to see that the candidates for initiation have been properly instructed and prepared, to have general supervision over the paraphernalia of the lodge, and to see that the lodge room is correctly and properly prepared for all occasions, and to assist the other officers in the performances of their respective duties. Brother Marshal, you will seek the Master of Ceremonies and Marshal and present the Tyler for installation. Tyler has been invested with the insignia of his office, which is the sword. Brother Stiles, you are now presented with the implement of your office, as the sword is placed in the hands of the Tyler, to enable him to guard against the approach of cowens and eavesdroppers, and permit none to pass except those who are duly qualified. So should it admonish us to set a guard over our thoughts, a watch at our lips, post a sentinel over our actions, thereby preventing the approach of every unworthy thought and deed, thus preserving consciences and void of offense toward God and man. At this time, I would like to take a moment of silence for our Tyler Emeritus and Senior Steward Emeritus, brothers John Willis Salyers and Jim Dickerson. Thank you. Brother Marshall, you will seat the Tyler and present the worshipful master for the charge. Worshipful sir and brother, to your care is committed the charter of the lodge and the government of the brethren who compose the same and are within the jurisdiction of said lodge. You cannot be insensible of the obligations which devolve on you as their head, nor of your responsibility to the faithful discharge of the important duties annexed to said station. The honor, reputation, and usefulness of your lodge will materially depend on the skill with which you manage your concerns, while the happiness of its members will be generally promoted in proportion to the zeal and ability with which you propagate the genuine principles of our institution. For a pattern of imitation, consider the great luminary of nature, which, rising in the east, regularly diffuses light and luster to all within its circle. In like manner, it is your providence to spread and communicate light and instruction to the brethren of this lodge. Forcibly impress upon them the dignity and high importance of masonry, and seriously admonish them never to disgrace it. Charge them to practice out of the lodge those duties which they have been taught, and be amiable, discreet, and virtuous in conduct, to convince mankind of the goodness of the institution, so that when a person is said to be a member of it, the world may know that he is one to whom the burdened heart may pour out its sorrows, to whom distress may prefer its suit, and whose hand is guided by justice, and whose heart is expanded by benevolence. In short, by a diligent observance of the bylaws of your lodge, the constitutions of masonry, and above all, the holy scriptures, which are given as a rule and guide to your faith, you will be enabled to acquit yourself with honor and reputation, and lay up a crown of rejoicing, which shall continue in time shall be no more. Brother Marshall, we will seek the worshipful master in the east and present the wardens for the charge. The wardens. You are too well acquainted with the principles of masonry to warrant any distrust that you will be found wanting in the discharge of your respective duties. Suffice it to say that when you have seen praiseworthy in others, you should carefully imitate, and what in them you have appeared defective, you should yourself amend. You should be examples of good and order and regularity, for it is only by due regard to the laws and your own conduct that you can expect obedience to them from others. You are to assist the master in the discharge of his trust, diffusing light and imparting knowledge to all whom he shall place under your care. In the absence of the master, you will succeed to higher duties. Your requirements must, therefore, be such that as the craft may never suffer for the want of proper instruction. From the spirit which you have hitherto evidenced, I entertain no doubt that your future conduct will be such as to merit the applause of your brethren and the testimony of a good conscience. Brother Marshall, you will seek the wardens in their respective stations. The members of this lodge will please rise. Brethren, such is the nature of our Constitution that some must, out of necessity, rule and teach, while others must, of course, learn to submit and obey. Humility is both an essential duty. The officers who are elected and appointed to govern your lodge are sufficiently conversant with the rules of propriety and the laws of the Masonic order to avoid exceeding the powers with which they are entrusted, and you are of too generous disposition to envy their preferment. I therefore trust that you will have but one aim, and that will be to try to please each other and unite in the grand design of being happy and communicating happiness. Finally, my brethren, as the business of this lodge has been conducted in peace and harmony, so may it long continue. May you and your associates long enjoy every satisfaction and delight which disinterested friendship can afford. May kindness and brotherly affection distinguish your conduct as men and as Masons. Within your peaceful walls, may your children's children celebrate with joy and gratitude the annual recurrence of this auspicious solemnity, and may the tenets of our profession be transmitted through your lodge, pure and unimpaired from generation to generation. Brother Marshall, you will proclaim the installation. The audience will please rise.
In the name and by the authority of the most worshipful Grand Lodge of Texas, I proclaim the officers of Spring Lodge under 1174 ancient, free, and accepted basis, duly and constitutionally respected.
You may be seated.
Now that's a hat.
Normally I use this podium, so if you allow me to raise, I'm going to go in a different direction.
Okay.
First time is now. That was Carl that did that.
It was.
Thundercat. I normally when I do presentations before, I would always be on the floor, and it's attributed to Brother T.J. Garrett. When I first started being an officer in 2014, I was afraid of that behind me, the podium. I would never be able to speak in front of crowds, I promise you. That wasn't my thing. And TJ had said, why don't you move around? It'll be a lot easier for you, just move around. And it helps with my nerves, and it helps with me talking to people, and it's attributed to Brother TJ. I wouldn't have had any other officer install me, but TJ was an integral part because, in a way, he kind of started that path for me. I had Brother Gordon Marney. Yeah, we have history. We do. We have a history.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And I think today closes the chapter with it. You know, it's a long, hard road, and you were there when I first started. I really appreciate you doing this for Marshall.
It has been my honor.
Lastly, I'd like to recognize Brother John Worrell. John Worrell has been a confidant of mine since I started in the lodge. Many midnight talks about various subjects and different things that we have going on here at the lodge. I wanted to recognize these three men because they're profoundly a part of our lodge because they're past masters. Past masters are the wisdom of our life. Castillo, Diaz, Layla. I didn't have understanding of what frontline employees are until I worked at the diversion center. When I worked at the diversion center, I had a greater respect for what those men in blue do every single day, and the crap that they put up with every single day. They are great men. They are human. And I'm not discounting any of the ladies that are there. I've met some of the ladies that come through that area too. They're all great people. When you see somebody in blue, you should thank them and be there for them. They're not your enemy. You're there to help you and to help guide you. They're just doing the same thing you do, which is you get up every day, you go to work, they go to work too. I know I probably missed some people at work, but I want to try to cut this short. I do have a couple people that are at work, like Dwayne Davis, who is a spiritual advisor of mine, that have helped me through those times when it was rough here a few months ago. And he was very inspirational in helping me get through a dark time. Another person I'd like to thank is one of my very best friends, William Stout. I think it's Stout his name. Stoughton? Stoughton. William has had cancer, and he's been fighting. When I came back from, sorry, I'm getting emotional. When I came back from having my mother was passed, and I heard that day that she had left, I had two people really impact my life. One was Lysandra Seastrunk, which I work with. She hugged me as I was going out the door and telling me everything was going to be okay. My second was one of my best friends in the world, William, called me over to his house and gave me a hug. And he had the similar type of like, if I can say it, he had a similar type of thing that Pop said, where, touching or getting around you or doing anything would cause a lot of problems. He doused himself with disinfectant, grabbed me in his arms, and he hugged me. And he told me he loved me. And that may not mean much to some people, but that means a hell of a lot to me. Because I needed it at that moment. These people are people that affected me throughout my life. But there are other people I want to recognize in this setting here as brothers. One of the ones that you notice right behind me is the hat that I put on top of an urn. That is my brother, Carl Wolf. Carl was going through the line, and he was doing whatever to get through and go to the next level. And I hope that he stayed in the line. Circumstances didn't work out that way. This year is dedicated to him. We were not, let me just say this right now, we were not the greatest of brothers. We were not as close as I am to David or to Mike or to any of you brothers. We were like fire and gas. I can promise you that hot snow. There were times when we would fight like cats and dogs. But the minute he hit his door, it stopped. And while the time that we were in this facility, here, in this lodge, that argument didn't exist. That fight didn't exist. Now, we got in that parking lot, I bet you $5 to picked up. But while we were here, it never happened. He was a great man. He lived his life very outward, as I would like to say. I'm an inward kind of guy, he was the outward kind of guy. Carl was loud, boisterous, but he was outward. He was a great man. And he was one of the reasons why I became a Mason by accident. Carl had been down in Sharpstown and had to come all the way to Atascocita to drop me off when I was living with him, to go all the way out here to Spring, to come in the 10 Lodge, to go all the way back to Atascocita. Finally, after about 2.5 months, 3 months of that stuff, he said, man, I am tired of this. can you just come to lodge with me and just sit? And all you gotta do is eat some food. Dell won't bother you. You don't have to bother them. Just come with me. I said, okay, I can do that. That's fine. When I came in the first time, I met this little man talking to I'm going to. Little short guy with glasses named Bob Otter. This guy, I swear to you, was cantankerous and funny, and he always had a story. And I've listened to those stories 1,000 times, and I wish he was here today. I'd listen to it 1,000 more. Bob Otto looked at me, and he said, "You'd be a good Mason." I said, "Look, I'm not trying to cause any problems. I'm not, my friend Carl here, he's not, I don't give a damn what Carl said. You'd make a good Mason." And it was on. I remember for a month solid, that man would relentlessly say, "Have you signed the petition? Have you done what you're supposed to do? Hey, what's going on? Did you get anything done? What are you going to become a Mason? Come on, let's go. Come on. What are you doing?" He didn't take no for an answer. And I'd been thinking about it, and I thought, man, nobody in my family, nobody in my family was a Mason. Nobody had history there. Oh, you know what? I like what you guys are about. I like the way the community was, because in 2008, there was a lot of fun in life. A lot of fun. There was moments where we would go over to a brewery or to a bar and hang out and talk. Outside of this, because this isn't Freemasonry. You guys know that, right? This isn't Freemasonry here. When you sit in this right here, that's not Freemasonry. Freemasonry is when you have you and another brother at a brewery, and you're having a drink together, and you're talking to each other, having fellowship with them, and you find out things about him, and he finds things out about you. Because 90% of the time when you're here, you don't even know the guy's wife. You don't even know if he has kids. Because you come in here, okay, all right, over here, all right. Freemasonry is more than this. The brotherhood is when we go out of here, when we spend time with each other, when we're around each other, when we're talking to each other. That's Freemasonry. And I finally became a Mason on June 24, 2008. And it was the most impactful day of my life. I was recently divorced. The wonderful ex-wife is here. And I thought to myself, well, I don't know what I do. I don't know anything about this. And I kept hearing Otto and Pop and Carl and every other brother that was around me, because Adam, Dave Forswalden, every one of the brothers who were here, John Warlow, they all said the same thing. Be you. Be who you are. Because, let me tell you what the greatest secret of Freemasonry is. It's knowing who you are. Knowing who you are inside, and how you can show the world that. I went and I had been passed to a degree of fellowcraft and was honored to do that. And then I took a little time off. When I came back 2 years later, I knew what it was like to go through struggle. I knew what it was like to get to where I am today. Because I stopped thinking, okay, I'm just going to let it deal with it. I put a chip on my shoulder. I said, I'm going to do things now. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to make it. And nobody's going to stop me from doing it. I don't have that can't in my vocabulary. I don't have won't in my vocabulary. I don't have will not in my vocabulary. I don't believe in it. If you can't get through a project, go around it. You can't get around it, go under it. You can't get under it, go over it. There's always a way to do something. And was one of the greatest days of my life is June 2nd, 2011. That's when I became a Mountain Mason. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was just one of the happiest times of my life because I earned it. I earned it. But I didn't earn it alone. I earned it with brothers that were helping me and supporting me. They were always there around me. And I was thinking about it the last few days when I'm trying to prepare this speech. And I got thinking of what is the most impactful thing that I could tell any brother in the audience or anywhere. Get to know your brothers. Get to know who they are, what they're about. Develop relationships with them. Develop relationships with the community. You are the light of Freemasonry. You will show what Freemasonry is about. The more you show them what we are about, the more you promote it. Closing. Remember who you are. You're a brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God. Thank you. Yes, Brother Gordon, Brother John, and Brother TJ Beaton on the west side of the office. Appreciation for you guys doing this today. I really appreciate what you guys did. You were an integral part of my life and have been since I started. And I really appreciate thanking you for doing the same thing. And you as a part of this too. Thank you. Brother Pops.
Yes, Lord, no.
You meet me on the west side of the altar for a second.
Think about it over. He said, "He's getting in his car."
Is your brother? Oh, Lord. Uh-oh. Got a cape bag.
Keep it there.
Look at that.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's like Christmas. Thank you, Lord, for coming.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure.
Thanks for being part of my life and pushing me where I'm going to be. And I wouldn't have done it without your life. You know what I mean?
Well, you know where I'll be.
Yeah.
Right behind you.
Anytime, appreciate it.
Thank you.
For the senior warden, for the junior warden, Brother Lowry. Speaking on the left side, the other side.
So Lowry, I know you turned it down, but I consider you still part of the live. And I think you just deserve a guy with as much as 15 million in front of you, because I think you are just an integral part of it. I'm not going anywhere.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And no, I'll be right here.
But you may not, I shouldn't say you know, it's in the field, you know, you crack us, laugh, have a few beers, and except for you, it's coffee for you and I. Our time is now. It's a moment to make things happen. And not to anybody in that private sector, because financially is making our lives difficult. And I think we're gonna rise above it. I think we're gonna be innovative and really inspiring to not just us, community, the animal, everybody. Let's get to work, do what we gotta do. You know, I thank you for what you've done for me. I look forward to working. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Did I miss anything? I think I did. Brother Marshall. Meet me on the west side of the altar, please.
Brother Marshall, I don't think you noticed that your Marshall pen was like 3 times as long. Everybody else got about an inch.
They did.
And you can make an inch go 6 inches. Hey. You know.
Well, my wife can. Was it
I know the pen for you, Brother Marshall.
another pen?
I felt bad. I felt so bad. I wanted to order another one for you.
Is
I
that
didn't
stuff
want
that
you
was
to
in
have,
my
I didn't
chair?
want you to have pen envy with any of your brothers.
Is that stuff that was in my chair belong to me?
Yeah.
That was.
Who did you think it belonged to?
I don't know who gave it.
I did.
Okay, thank you. What else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, brother.
It's Walmart.
What else?
That was a little bit too.
Brother Pops, I have to ask you back over there, and I apologize. You're a horse, man. I like it.
I have that coin. I was going to give you the coin we have from here, but I also want to give you this coin because it's kind of similar to you and I.
Oh, man. Very nice. That's very nice.
So, if my ex-wife would like to stand up, please. I'd like to recognize her because we've been friends for a while, and we tried it twice, you know, didn't work out. Right. All right. You don't know how your friends are until you kill them. She's a remarkable woman, and she's also a reason why I'm a Freemason. If you don't have a woman in your life that believes in what you're doing, you're going to have problems. And she would always, on a Tuesday and Thursday night, you got to go somewhere? You got to be somewhere, don't you? Got to go, right? Aren't you going to lodge? So, I thank you and appreciate you for being there for me.
Didn't want to feed you.
You didn't? No. Any brother would like to stand up and say something, I yield the floor.
You knew this day was coming.
Yeah, I did.
Horse Master, if you would meet me on the east side of the altar, bring the sounding block with you.
Sounding block.
Yes.
Let's
Sit
do
down.
it.
We're gonna start with a little bit of fun.
Sure.
During my year, you blessed me with a beautiful, gigantic king cow.
Yeah.
My, let's just say my vengeance was wanting to be overdo that, but I came across a hat that is not as bad as what I wanted it. Because I saw this, and I thought of you, actually. And this is what the hat that I bought you, so that you could wear for me when I attend lodge as a past master. That is from Alice in Wonderland. Mad Hatter. Mad
Mark, can
Hatter.
you picture real quick?
I figured that would suit you quite well because it fits your personality. So you don't have the dingle balls, you don't have the lights, all that stuff. So I figured I'd take mercy on that. Now, the second thing is I was watching Lebanon Lodge the other day and listening to Right Worshipful Senior Warden give a comment about what he gave the worship master of Lebanon Lodge, because he did an installation. He started out with the sounding board, and he made a comment, and I hope I do him justice. If you see him, let him know if I did him justice or not. But he presented the worship master with a sounding block with Paul Underwood's design on it. And he said, the worship master, I gave this to Bob to let him hit it first, because it started the year for you. And Bob's already made the first mark on it. But every time you're in the east now, and you hit this is going to tell a tale of your year. And you will always have the memories and the marks like I had on my sounding block, on my gavel, that I had made for me. So, when your year is done, and you see this block, you will see your history in this block of your year as master of this lodge. With that said, I bought you this 6 months ago. I have had this in my house, and my wife, when I told her I was taking it today, she was like, "You're getting that thing out of my house, right?" So,
Or the music department.
yeah, if she would have known what was in it with the toilet, she would. But I had this made, it's custom made for you. I didn't know you were gonna come with a box of gavels, but I wanted you to have something special that has your name on it. So, and that goes with that. That's your sounding block that goes with that gavel. But like I said, when Brad started, when Right Worshipful Senior Warden started his deal with Lebanon Lodge, it started with a hit on that gavel, because he hit it first, because he did the installation. And I had Bob hit it when he brought the lodge to him today. TJ hit it, and now you can hit it, and you can see your history of this lodge. I wish you luck. I know you're gonna have a good year, and I'm proud of you. You keep the party in this too. You gotta put that hat on, Mary.
Oh,
I did.
oh my gosh.
You got
Almost
somebody
like
that
the
wants to do that.
leprechaun hat.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
I also have something I wish to present to you.
Oh, not
I have
this.
been teaching you about this since I've been brought into the Masons. What?
I'll ask them. Charles is poking in the side of the eye.
You know, you look up to it.
You would like that.
Not half my minute.
There you go. I say Fuba is a man with many titles, but no responsibility. I know for a fact that you take the world on your shoulders, and you take it in stride. Despite that fact, I still call you our Fuba.
Thank you so much, sir. I look forward to you turning it in and coming them out.
Yeah, that's something to you. You know, you are a fair boy as well. For your part.
Oh, wow. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
One more thing, you know, that's big pocket.
I just want to say people.
That's what I say, it's supposed to be done.
A man of success who lives well, laughs often, and loves money. Who has gained the respect of intelligent men and the love of children. Who has filled the niche and accomplished the task. He lives the world better than he leaves the world better than he found it. Whether by an improved copy, perfect home, or a rescued soul, who never lacked appreciation of earth's beauty, or failed to express it, who looked for the best in others and gave the best he had. Thank you.
Trying to have it.
Trying to
Get a picture of it.
That's good. Just like the half the food food. Water buffalo. Oh, that's great.
I yield the floor to anybody else.
Probably a bad idea.
Yes, sir.
Worshipful Master Ward's brother and special guest. I too want to say congratulations to Brother Barry Lacapelle. But also I'd like to call your attention to something else. So everybody will look around this room and you see all the paper on the chairs and the open chairs that you're sitting in and stuff. Pops got his mandate from the Grand Master of Grand Lodge of Texas, and he come up here and did all this in his zeal to keep us safe. And I, for one, want to say thank you very much, Pops. Yeah. And I'd like to give him a hand of applause. Thank you, one question.
Can I be recognized one more time?
Yes, sir.
I understand that we are in the presence of Union and Crown 307 and the Grand Lodge of the Grand Lodge of Scotland
I believe
is
so.
watching us. Thank you, brother. Glad to have y'all.
Well, Worshipful Master, I did get a text from Albert Matthews, and I share this sentiment, and he wanted to pass along his congratulations and good luck to the officers, and to you, Barry.
Thank you.
Worshipful Master, Lord, brethren, and guests, I would just like to say on behalf of all the past masters, we're here for you, whatever you need throughout the year, day or night. And on a personal note, I am just so dang proud of you. It's been an incredible journey. And yeah, you got here.
Yeah.
You got here. Congratulations.
Thank you. Anybody yelling? Want to say anything or anything? Feel free.
thank you for coming to Spring Lodge 1174 for this officer installation. I'm looking forward to a great year, and I look forward to any brother that wants to help or be active in this lodge, come talk to me. We can work out a plan, see what we can do for this Masonic group. We have challenges. This is a moment that we can be innovative and inspiring. Don't look at the challenge as a defeat, look at it as a success. Because we're going to be successful. We're going to get through these times. And we're going to come out of it better and stronger than we ever were. Thank you. And with the officers of the 2021, please remain in the lodge. And the guests, visiting brethren, anybody, if you please go ahead and